Hey guys, welcome to my little, I think this is called a breakfast nook. It's basically our kitchen table. It's very small, but welcome to my kitchen table, my little breakfast nook. If you're new here, my name is Kiara. Feel free to call me Q. And today I wanted to talk about gardening and missing it. I got a comment from a lovely viewer who basically was saying, like, I live in Michigan. What do you do in the wintertime? And it really got me thinking, that would be a really good video to make, because I started thinking about, well, what do I do in wintertime? Because there's definitely a process for me. I definitely miss my garden a lot. And so I sat down and I thought about it, and I came up with 11 things that are really my go-tos when it comes to missing my garden or just getting through winter in general. Now, I will preface this entire thing by saying I don't live in Michigan. I live in California, and specifically where I live, winter is very, very short. And even while it's wintertime, like, we've had many, many days that are still like 60, 70 degrees and sunny. Today happens to be a cloudy, rainy day, and so I thought this was like the perfect time to talk about something like this. But I just want to let everybody know, like, I'm not living in Minnesota or Michigan or any of the places that do get really cold or, get really cloudy. So there is that. But in sitting down and thinking about the things that I do, I realized, well, this was a really good refresher for me, because they're the things that really help me. And it's always nice to just kind of have that reminder, especially like a list written down of things that you can go to that work really well for you when you're going through a hard time. And the other thing is, I thought this is probably helpful for somebody else. So what we're doing today is we are going to be planting out a tray while I talk about this. This kind of is a new setup that I'm trying out. Mostly I have like my seed packets tucked in here so that I don't lose my place while I'm talking, because I get caught up in what I'm saying. But this kind of reminds me of that like game Guess Who. Did you ever play that as a kid? Anyway, this reminds me of that. I did fill out all of my tags ahead of time because I definitely cannot write and talk at the same time. So we're gonna see how this goes. I'm gonna see if I can get this whole tray done. It might just end up me being distracted in what I'm talking about and sitting here talking to you, which is great too. So to start off this conversation about what I do in the wintertime, I think you really have to start with, for anyone, how difficult is winter for you, right? So for me personally, I do definitely get the wintertime blues. The stronger part of it is seasonal affective disorder, which I do believe is a real disorder. Like, I do believe it's a real thing. Not everyone thinks that it's a real thing, but I am of the mind of, like, if someone says they're experiencing something, it's not for you to say that it's not real. And I know myself and a lot of other people who have just really, really struggled when the weather changes and it's just cold and rainy or cloudy and all of that kind of stuff. And it really does affect you. If that is something you're struggling with, I do think some of these things might be beneficial for you and might help you out. But know that, like, I am not a doctor. I'm not a therapist of any kind, psychologist, psychiatrist, any of that. So, talk to your people. If you find that you really are needing help in the wintertime, like, don't be ashamed of it. Go get that help. So I just want to start that off with any of these conversations. Like, these are things that, first of all, I want to normalize that if you're struggling, it's okay. And there's some things that you can do. And also, if you're struggling more than other people are, say, like, these things just aren't the help that you really need, that's okay too. And I just want to give people the encouragement and the acceptance, really. That's probably not the right word. But I want people to know that it's all right to do what you need to do for yourself to feel good, and know that if that's not the same as what someone else's level of quote unquote feeling good is, then don't worry about that and don't let that make you feel ashamed. All of that to say, I definitely have struggled with wintertime blues like my whole life. And gardening, I think, has helped and also made it worse. So for me with gardening, I really, really miss the garden in the wintertime. Like, I really want to go outside. I really want to, be in the air. I miss I miss the warmth. I'm definitely a warm weather person. I live in California. I mean, I was born here, but like stay in California for a reason, right? And I know that like I've thought about living in places where it snowed and stuff like that, and ultimately we've just never made the move because I know that I would really struggle. I'm already getting distracted like doing two things at once. So we really will see how much of this planting I get done. But yeah, it's one of those things like I always have struggled with wintertime. And with gardening, I say that it helps because it gives me kind of something to look forward to and something to do a little bit. And I'll talk about that in my list. But it also just makes it harder because it gives me something to really miss. Like I miss being out in the warmth and in the sunshine. And yeah, it makes winter that much harder for me. When it comes to, fall time and the summer garden is starting to finally kind of like calm down because it gets pretty intense for me. With our garden is like beautiful and we grow so much food and it's really awesome. But when fall rolls around, I really need a break. And so the first thing on my list of what I do in the winter is I try to really enjoy not gardening. So what that means for me is I'm actually intentionally taking time to be like, I'm so glad that it's not 100 degrees and I'm sweating bullets outside, trying to harvest this food. I'm so glad that I'm not trying to pick things before they go bad in the garden and then like go bad on our kitchen table. And I'm so glad that the choreness of it all, like the work of it all, is calming down and I get a break. And so the first thing I do in the wintertime is really try to lean into that. Now, most of that leaning happens in the fall. And as our garden is just like, we're taking it out and all of that kind of stuff, because it's just a lot of work. Like, I love gardening, but it is a lot of work. Let me see if I can adjust the lights here. It's getting pretty dark outside. And basically what I'm saying is like, I just try to be grateful that the long to-do list that is gardening and, growing your own food and all that, I just try to take a minute and be glad it's over for a minute, honestly, like to really allow myself time to acknowledge that, hey, now I did a lot of work all season and now it's time to rest. And that's a really beautiful thing. The next thing on my list is with that, I enjoy doing things inside. I used to think growing up that summer was like hands down my favorite season. And I thought that up until probably like a year or so ago. And I've come to learn about myself or really just discover how much I really, really, really love fall. And so in the fall, what that means for me is enjoying the leaves changing. Oh, I love when the leaves change. I love driving around and looking at all the leaves. Like it's my favorite thing. I adore it, and it means, drinking really good teas all the time and like the special ones, the holiday ones, and being constantly in a blanket and all of that kind of stuff and just really enjoying the coziness of it. One of my favorite things to do since I was a kid was sitting at a window and watching the rain come down. When I was like really little, I used to think that it was God cleaning the earth. And I still love the idea of that, right? The earth getting clean and, things just being washed away and rejuvenated and all of that kind of stuff. And so one of my favorite things to do is to sit and watch the rain. And what this means, for helping with just seasonal affective disorder, we have all of our windows open, I mean, most of the year really, but in the fall, we really get to enjoy the amount of that light that comes in because we don't have to, close everything in the middle of the day to keep the heat and the blazing sunshine out. And so we get to really enjoy the full day. And, we'll open the windows and let the air in the afternoon and just like let nice breezes come through the house and all of that good stuff. Like, so I really, really love kind of like embracing the coziness of it all. Okay, got a little too dark there. So turned on a couple lights. It's not great, but we'll see if this gets us through this video. And then the third thing that I really focus on intentionally to get me through winter is I really focus on enjoying the holidays and like really looking forward to the holidays. Now, for us, we celebrate Christmas, but you know, for us, it's a whole season. So I have friends that celebrate Hanukkah, all different things. And so we'll go to different holiday parties and, you know, we'll go drive around and look at the Christmas lights, which again, one of my favorite things. I love doing that. We'll make like just cookies and cinnamon rolls. We have different traditions that we do around the holidays. So Christmas is my second favorite holiday past Halloween. Halloween is number one for me. But it's not really Christmas Day that I look forward to every year. It really is the lead up to Christmas. I love the magic of it all coming together. I love, you know, the messages behind it. There's a lot of like materialisticness to it and like stress and all of that. But the spirit of the holidays, I really, really love because it's all about focusing on the people that are in your life that are important to you and letting them know that they're important to you and spending time with them and thinking of them, whether that's like buying gifts or making gifts or something like that. Just really, this is the wrong thing. See, talking, not paying attention. Just really like cherishing your loved ones. And I love that. It's also a time to think about, you know, all the things in your life that you have that you're grateful for, and think about people who may or may not have all those things that you do. And maybe there's different ways that you can, you know, help other people, be a blessing to other people, and make the holidays a little better for them too. And so I love all of those things about the holidays, and I love focusing on all of those things really intentionally. And then around that, so this is like, you know, all really like December into January. What we do a lot of is cleanup projects. So in the summertime, I spend usually mornings in the garden because that's where it's cool, the coolest part of the day where I live. Like I said, it gets to be like 100 degrees here pretty much every day in the summertime. It's like high 90s to 100. And so I garden in the early morning, like really early morning. And I love that in the fall and winter, I can go out in the afternoon. You know, the hottest part of the day is like late evening, right before the sun goes down. And yeah, it might be like 60 degrees here, you know, sometimes colder, but I love that I can go out at that time of day and get projects done. And so we do a lot of that here in the wintertime. It's when we really are cleaning up the garden. Right now we're doing things like, you know, tarping areas to kill the grass and thinking about what things we want to put in, a lot of pruning for next year with our fruit trees and our berry bushes and stuff like that. So like all of those maintenance type things are happening for us over the wintertime. And so it's really good to have a season where the harvest has calmed down to pretty much stop, depending on how well our fall winter garden is doing. But we get a chance to, one, clean up everything and start new in the new year. And also we have a chance to expand, which is really cool. One thing that we've spent a ton of time on this year is really focusing on compost. And we're trying to not buy compost for next year's garden, which is something that we've never done. We've always brought it in. And so we're trying to, you know, make as much compost as we can over these winter months. And then we're also trying to do things like collecting all the fallen leaves from our trees and, you know, pile them up either to mix into the compost or to create leaf mold. And we're also like putting it in the beds to suppress weeds and at the same time like put more nutrients into the soil come springtime. And so we're doing a lot of projects like that that will just improve the garden for next year. The next thing that I do is I really spend a lot of time over the winter time looking at pictures from my previous garden. So for me, what this means, oh, This is the first time I've ever planted dill seeds, and it smells like pickles. This is really cool. So I don't know why I didn't expect that to smell like dill, but here you go. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I spent a lot of time looking at like photos and things from my last garden. And the cool thing about last year is I did so much video here on YouTube that now I have all those videos to look back on. The last like 3 years that I've been gardening, I've always said I wish I documented more. You know, I would start out and take a couple pictures here and there or do a video here and there, but I always wish that I documented more. And so last year I made the commitment to like really go for it all year, and I did, and I'm so happy I did. And so now I have all of those, you know, photos and videos and all of that kind of stuff on my phone that I can look back on when I'm like really missing my garden and, you know, wishing it was summer again. It's also been really cool to just like reflect back on the things that I accomplished in the garden this year, because I'm one of those people that like, you know, I tend to be down on myself or hard on myself. And so I'll start thinking like, I really want to do all these things with my garden, but like, I'm kind of a bad gardener. And the longer that goes on, the more I think that. So to have those photos where it's like, yeah, I'm a learning gardener. Like I'm a student for sure, but look at all these beautiful things. Like look at the beauty that I had in this garden, and I created that, right? I put those seeds in the ground. I took care of those plants. I nurtured it. And look at these harvests that we got, and look at the food that we were able to preserve. Like look at the food we were able to share with other people, and look at, you know, what we were able to give someone when they came to our house. So all of that is so amazing to me, and I love that I have that documented. Like I can look back on that. The other thing about this year that was really special is I was pregnant when this year started, and then we had our baby boy, and so this was the year that gardening was really challenging for me. I was very sick with my pregnancy, and you know, so this was one of those things where it was really hard, but I stuck with it. And sometimes there were things that we like had to let go of and we neglected, but we were still able to do so much. And I'm so proud of myself for what I was able to do, and, you know, what me and my husband were able to do together also. And I love that I have those things documented so that I can look back on that and just kind of like relive it a little bit more. And then that brings me to the next thing, which is looking at all of the photos and videos and all that good stuff that I have allows me to really daydream about the next one. So what I'll do is I'll stop gardening and be like, yep, I'm good. Like, I don't want to think about gardening at all for, you know, a good long while. And then like, you know, a day into that, I'll start thinking about next year. And so that's fully where I am right now. I'm so excited for this 2024 garden. What I love to do is like make goals and daydream and think about specific spots that I loved in the previous year, and like, how could I make that better? Or do I want to do that again, but maybe somewhere else? You know, what was surprising to me that I want to kind of like lean into more? What do I want to learn? You know, what do I want to try? And we always kind of set goals for our garden. I love goal setting in everything that I do. I am a huge goal setter. And so it's one of those things that I love doing, and I love spending a lot of time thinking about. For instance, last year, or this year I should say, our goal was to grow 400 pounds of food. In the previous years before that, the most we'd ever gotten was 200 pounds of food. So I was like, okay, we have a much bigger garden this year, so I want to double that. We ended up growing 600 pounds of food. Actually, no, we ended up growing 700 pounds of food, which is nuts. And so next year, one of our goals is to get to 1,000, which is one of those things that I've seen those videos where people are like, grow 1,000 pounds of food. And I'm like, that is an insane amount of food. Like, that's so much. How are people doing that in their backyards? But we're very close to that. I think we'll be able to easily do that next year. So that's really exciting. But yeah, so I love thinking about just the different things that we can do to make the garden better for the next year. And I'll draw different plans and, you know, different designs and all that stuff. And when it comes planting time, I'll ignore like most of that, but the activity of it is something that I really love doing. The other thing that I'll do to just kind of like get me through winter is in the fall, I will do like fall and winter, I'll do really just like low stakes gardening. So we did plant out a fall garden. It's out there right now and it's growing very, very, very slowly. Fall gardening is something I'm still figuring out. I like trying it every year and just kind of seeing what happens, but it really is like low maintenance for us. Like I'll plant it and basically it's good luck, guys. We will turn on our irrigation system for part of the winter. The other part of winter, we don't even need it on because it's raining. And I'll go out there and check on plants. In the beginning, I will, pick off like caterpillars and stuff like that. But at a certain time in the winter, it's just out there and it's doing its own thing and we'll get food from it or we won't, and I'm okay either way. I love the fact that there's a time for me to garden that's just like super low stakes, because I'm not spending a ton of time outside anyway. I am going out there and doing like the cleanup projects and the improvement projects and stuff like that. But spring and summer is really when I spend the most time gardening. And I love that there is a season that I get to just kind of coast, I get to surprise myself with the gift of food, but if nothing happens, it's fine and it's all ready for spring. The main thing is I really just don't put pressure on myself to have it like be anything significant. It's more of like, it gives me another opportunity to try growing stuff. It gives me an opportunity to get better at like seed starting and, taking care of plants in general and all that good stuff. But for the most part, it's just a really like chill garden time. I don't know if you can hear the baby in the background. He just woke up from his nap and Andrew's gonna get him. Another thing that I do to really get me through the winter time is I like to do winter projects. So things like knitting. I have knitted the same scarf the last 3 years over the wintertime. I only pick this up in the wintertime, and then come March, when it's planting time, I put it back. And I basically just start over. I have a friend who is teaching me how to knit. She's been teaching me how to knit like the last few years. And so I know how to do like most of it of one kind of stitch, but I don't know how to finish the scarf. So I just kind of like started over so that I could practice again. But that's one of the things that I do. I'm also trying to learn to cook. Andrew's the cook in our house. He's a really, really good cook. And I am terrible. I am not a good cook. And so one of the things that I put more time into is like learning from him. I like baking. I'm not a great baker, but I fumble my way through recipes. But I really like baking. And so I spend more time on that, especially since around the holidays, baked goods make really great gifts when you go to someone's house or go to a party or anything like that. And so it gives me a chance to kind of like do stuff like that. So I really love just kind of like the like cozy projects, I guess, like the cozy skills. That you can really just dive into when it's cold outside. Another big project that we do is, I think I started this like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, but every new year we declutter in our house. So I go through the house room by room and completely deep clean and completely declutter the entire house over, I used to be able to do it in like a week. Now it takes me a minute. With just all the different things that we have going on. Oh, I lost my chopstick. Where'd it go? Oh, here it is. And so that is one thing that I really like doing, is just doing a New Year's clean, a New Year's like clean slate. It's basically the same thing as spring cleaning, but I like to do it in the winter time. And it's actually served us really well because there were a few years where we ended up moving later, and it was really nice to not have a whole bunch of extra stuff in the house and to be able to just move what we wanted to keep. It's kind of amazing, even when you're trying not to bring a bunch of stuff in the house, how much stuff just gets accumulated. And so one of the things that I really like doing is just kind of like going through everything and getting rid of stuff, donating stuff, and yeah, just kind of like starting the year with a clean slate and a clean home. So I think I'm number 9. Yeah, so the ninth thing that I do to get me through the winter, especially when I'm missing the garden, is I go through seed catalogs. So that's when all the seed catalogs are, coming out and the orders go in. What I do is I actually keep the catalogs from the year before so that I can look at those before the new ones come in. So if I'm like really just missing the garden, I have something to look at in the meantime, and I will daydream about all the things that I could get, right? And so I will just like star and highlight like everything that looks pretty, everything that looks interesting, everything that I want to grow, and I'll just kind of like mark it all, right? Now, granted, I don't buy all those things. We buy very few of them, especially since I love the Baker Creek seed catalog because the heirloom seeds, I think they just have so much cool stuff. There's no way I'm buying all those seeds. But it's a nice time for me to just kind of like window shop, and I really like going through it and just seeing what's possible, and it gives me ideas for what I might want to get. And we usually end up getting like one or two things that are just like really fun and exciting that we have no idea how they're going to grow, just to kind of try it out. And so I love doing that to kind of just like get me through the winter. And then that leads really nicely into the next thing that I do, which is ordering all of our supplies and also like making sure all of the supplies that I already have are ready to go for the next season. So that means like making sure that things aren't broken. And if they are, ordering new things. It means like disinfecting all of my pots, like washing them out, and just like really getting ready for the season so that when it comes time to start seeds, I have clean pots to like immediately put stuff in. I don't have to wash them first and all that stuff, because I used to do that and it was just another barrier to get started, and I hated that. So I'm trying to stay more on top of that and not have stuff just like laying around dirty. It just started raining really hard. I don't know if you can hear that. It's raining super hard. I love it. But yeah, I try not to have things just kind of like lying around dirty. And then also, if we are buying more things, like this year I bought like these cell trays because I have previously used like the black plastic ones that come in like starter kits and stuff like that. And I have used them the last 3 years. They have split on me and broken on me, and I kept using them. And this was the year where I was like, you know what? I'm fully committed to this gardening thing, and I've used these now, even broken, for the past 3 years, and used solo cups and like all kinds of stuff. And I want to invest in something nicer. And so this was my Christmas gift, which was really awesome, and I love it. So things like that, just like getting ready for the next season and making sure that we have all of the like tools and supplies and stuff like that, so that when it's time to get started, we can just get started. And then the last thing that I do to really get me through winter, and I kind of mentioned this in the beginning, but I think this is something that you can do no matter where you are, is just kind of remind yourself that it's not going to be winter forever. And before you know it, you'll be able to be out in the fresh air and, in your garden again, or, spending time in the sunshine, all of that kind of stuff. So I think that the words you say to yourself are really important, and what you focus on really matters. And I say that as someone who has to spend a lot of time working on that. So one of the things that I'm always focusing on is, you know what? Winter's not going to last forever. In fact, where I live, winter's not very long. And so before I know it, I'm going to be starting seedlings again. And, here it is before Christmas. I'm starting seeds again, mostly for fun, so that I had something to do to talk while I was talking to you guys. But, in January, we start seeds here, and in February, it's really going. And we plant things out in March. And so that's a lot sooner than a lot of other people. I know a lot of you guys have to wait longer than that. But whatever that version is for you, really lean into that, right? And if that means maybe starting some things inside, like maybe starting herbs or lettuces or spinaches or something, just something small, starting a pot in your house, like anything you can do to pick yourself up and remind yourself like, hey, it is winter time and I'm not feeling great right now, but this isn't going to last forever. I think it is so important to remember that so many things in life are seasonal, right? They come and go, or they're cyclical, especially if you're having just a hard time with it. Reminding yourself that it won't last forever, I think, is really important. And more than that, also reminding yourself that the thing that you really want and the thing you're really missing is going to be here before you know it. And so those are the things that I do to really get me through missing the garden and, getting through winter. Because even before I was gardening, winter was really hard, and I was doing some of these things just to get me through in my days when I definitely was not gardening. And so I hope that this is helpful for you. And if there's anything that you do that really helps you get through winter, whether that's like playing music in the house, that's one thing I forgot to mention that I do more in the wintertime, listening to more podcasts, stuff like that. Anything that you do to get you through winter or get you through missing your garden, I'd love for you to drop it in the comments below, because I want to create a space where we can all help each other. And I would love for, someone to find this video and then go into the comments section and then just find so much more like beautiful suggestions and people who, feel the same way they do, and, have a sense of feeling understood, and also like really good advice, frankly, like good ideas for what they might be able to do to help themselves and see like, what of this list resonates with me, because I'm sure that you guys can come up with more than the 11 things that I came up with, or if those things were really helpful for you too, drop that down in the comments below so that someone can say like, oh yeah, this is something that a lot of people do, so maybe I should give it a try. Thank you so much for joining me in my breakfast nook on this very cloudy, rainy day. And we'll be in the garden soon. We'll be in the garden and, in the sunshine before we know it. Have a great day. I'll see you later.